How to write literary fiction. Number one is an emphasis on character. Now the characters in literary fiction, right, they're not going to be extraordinary, okay? They're not superheroes, they're just regular people like you and me. And it's the choices that they make in literary fiction stories that really define who they are. These choices force the reader to examine themselves because we make choices every single day, and that's what literary fiction is. It's a reflection of ourselves. The prose. Now, the prose in literary fiction is usually going to be something poetic, right? It's usually going to be a beautiful type of prose. There's going to be a rhythm and rhyme to the sentences, unlike commercial fiction. And that's because the author is writing to a specific target audience. The majority of people who read literary fiction are going to be reading it because it's more of an intelligent type of read, right? There's more symbolism that forces the reader to really think about what the author is trying to say. The subtext. Now, subtext is kind of tough because it has to be done very cleverly. Okay, not too many authors can do it, and if they can do it, it's very difficult to do correctly. To pull off great subtext, you have to know how to write implications and insinuations within the story, and that can happen through dialogue, that can happen through the prose itself, but whatever it is, it has to be used intelligently. It has to be done with purpose, and it hides the themes. Right? So let's say there's a social theme or like a political theme that will usually be hidden within the subtext of the literary fiction novel. Those themes can exist on the surface, yes, absolutely, but a good writer will know how to use the subtext to hide it within the dialogue, within the paragraphs. The darker tone. With literary fiction, it's just a more realistic tone, and because it's realistic, it's more darker. For example, sickness and death and marital infidelity, whereas in commercial fiction, they will be, talked about as well, but they might not be as explored in great description like in literary fiction. And that's because literary fiction needs those darker tones to exist in general. And the last part is the ambiguity of the endings. Literary fiction tends to have open-ended finales that leave it up to the reader to make the decision of what has happened, right? It's not so much tied up in a nice bow, the endings, like in commercial fiction, whereas, the plot, there's a villain, there's a good guy, the good guy wins, the bad guy dies, and that's that, justice is served. In literary fiction, it's not so easy like that. It's mostly more complicated, and that's because real life in general rarely provides a satisfying conclusion. Most times things are never solved, and if they are solved, the answer is never really good enough for us. Right? It's not really what we wanted as a solution. Yes, the problem was solved, but each truth is going to be different for each person. And literary fiction knows that. So when the author writes the ending, rather than tie it up in a nice bow and say, okay, that's how it's going to end, that's the ending, that's what I am saying, that's what the author is saying, the author leaves it up to the reader. Okay, so now it's up to you to make your decision how it ended. Okay, well there you have it. If you liked this video, you could check out this one right here and this one right there.